My name is Laura. At least that's what I've always been called. For the past 20 years I've lived a perfectly ordinary life. Or so I thought. My 20th birthday started like any other. Presents, cake, well wishes. It was shaping up to be a good day. Then everything changed. I went to blow out the candles. Suddenly, a surge of heat ran through me. The hallway burst into flames. Panic seized me. What had just happened? I stood there frozen, fear gripping my heart. My family rushed in, but they weren't panicking. They were smiling? My brother David chuckled. Happy birthday, sis. Looks like you finally got the family gift. Gift? What was he talking about? I was confused, terrified, and more than a little bit singed. This was not how I imagined my 20th birthday going. My family ushered me into the living room. The air crackled with unspoken words and a strange energy. My mum spoke first, her voice calm and reassuring. Laura, darling, we should have told you sooner. Our family, we're different. Different how? I wanted to scream. Were we aliens, time travelers? My Aunt Sarah, her eyes twinkling, decided to jump in. We have abilities, Laura. Magical abilities. Magical abilities. Were they serious? This was insane. I looked around at their faces. My dad, normally a man of science and logic, had a slight shimmer around his hands. David, always the prankster, was levitating a spoon without even looking at it. It was then that I knew they weren't joking. My entire world shifted on its axis. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. The fire, the calmness, the strange occurrences throughout my childhood that I'd always dismissed. It all made sense now. But why me? And why now? The next few days were a blur of explanations and training. Apparently, I was a pyrokinetic. I could control fire. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. My parents insisted I continue with my normal life as much as possible. That meant going back to school. I wasn't so sure. How could I possibly concentrate on exams and essays when I could conjure fire with my mind? What if I lost control again? The thought of accidentally incinerating my textbooks, or worse, another student, filled me with dread. I confided in my best friend Maya. She was a true skeptic. But to my surprise, she took the news in stride. Well, she said, at least you'll never be cold again. Leave it to Maya to find the silver lining in a situation involving potential spontaneous combustion. The first day back at school was a nerve-wracking experience. I kept my hands clasped tightly in my lap, terrified of even the slightest spark. I felt like everyone was staring at me, judging me. But maybe it was just paranoia. Classes were a welcome distraction. I threw myself into my studies, trying to forget about my newfound abilities. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. In my literature class, I noticed two new students. One was a girl with striking emerald eyes and a cascade of fiery red hair. Her name was Rose, and she had a mischievous glint in her eyes that I couldn't quite place. The other was a boy named Edisan, tall and imposing with an air of quiet intensity. There was something about both of them, an aura of otherness that drew me in. I couldn't explain it, but I knew I had to know more. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself drawn to Rose and Edisan. Rose, with her quick wit and infectious laughter, became my confidant. She listened patiently as I confided my fears and insecurities about my powers. Edisan, on the other hand, remained an enigma. He was always watching, observing, a hint of sadness in his deep brown eyes. One evening, after class, I found myself alone with Edisan in the library. We were both researching a particularly obscure text for our history assignment. You can tell me, you know, he said suddenly, his voice barely a whisper. I looked up, startled. Tell you what? I asked, my heart pounding. About your powers, he replied, his gaze unwavering. I hesitated, unsure of what to say. His eyes seemed to glow with an inner light, and for a moment I saw glimpses of something ancient and powerful swirling within them. How did you know? I breathed, my voice barely audible. A slow smile spread across his face. Let's just say I have a knack for sensing these things, he said, his voice laced with an odd amusement. The fire within you burns bright, Laura. Don't be afraid to let it shine. As I got to know Rose and Edisan better, I discovered that they too possessed extraordinary abilities. Rose had precognitive dreams, vivid visions of the future that were often cryptic and difficult to interpret. Edison, it turned out, was a telepath, able to read minds and communicate without words. We formed an unlikely bond, the three of us, drawn together by our shared secret, and the growing sense that we were all part of something bigger than ourselves. It was Edison who first told me about Marcos, the missing elder. He explained that Marcos was a powerful sorcerer, a guardian of balance between the human and supernatural worlds. He had vanished without a trace a few months ago, and his disappearance coincided with a series of disturbing events. Unexplained disappearances, natural disasters, and whispers of a growing darkness. Rose's dreams grew darker, filled with images of a shadowy army amassing on the horizon, their eyes burning with malevolent intent. She spoke of a prophecy, an ancient legend passed down through generations of her family about a chosen one, a descendant of fire who would either unite the supernatural world or tear it apart. We knew deep down that these events were connected to us, to our powers, to the legacy we had inherited. The weight of the world, it seemed, rested on our shoulders. The prophecy was vague, open to interpretation, but one thing was clear. A storm was coming and we were standing at its very heart. We had to find Marcos, we agreed. He was the key to understanding the prophecy, to preventing the darkness from consuming our world. The search for Marcos became our sole focus. Days turned into weeks as we followed every lead, every whisper, every fleeting clue. We delved into ancient texts, consulted with secretive oracles, and ventured into the hidden corners of the supernatural world, all the while honing our powers, preparing for the battle that lay ahead. I learned to control the flames that danced at my fingertips, to wield them with precision and grace. Rose learned to decipher the cryptic messages hidden within her dreams, to see not just fragments of the future, but the intricate tapestry of choices and consequences that lay before us. Edison, the quiet observer, became our strategist, his mind a weapon sharper than any sword. As we dug deeper, we uncovered a web of secrets and lies, a conspiracy that stretched back centuries. We discovered that Marcos had not simply disappeared. He had been betrayed, captured by a force that sought to plunge the world into chaos. My 20th birthday, the day my life changed forever, felt like a lifetime ago. I was no longer the scared girl who had accidentally set her hallway on fire. I was a pyrokinetic, a warrior, a guardian, a beacon of hope in a world teetering on the brink of destruction. The prophecy, once a distant threat, was now our present, our reality. We were running out of time. The fate of the world rested on our shoulders, on our ability to defeat the darkness that threatened to consume us all. As I looked at Rose and Edison, my friends, my comrades, my family, I knew that whatever lay ahead, we would face it together. The fire within me burned brighter than ever, fueled by a sense of purpose, a desire to protect the innocent, to honor the legacy that was now mine to bear. This was my destiny, and I would embrace it with every fiber of my being.